there were a lot of comebacks this month. March to me personally has felt like the longest month this year, but that's not saying much because this year has gone by incredibly quickly. We're already a quarter of the way into 2023. And with that, I can 100% say that 2023 is shaping up to be a much better year than 2022 for K-pop, at least in my personal opinion. This month especially gave us some absolute bangers and some misses. Please don't listen to those like really negative K-pop commentary channels that say like every single song is trash. There were some really, really good comebacks this month. But first, let me lay some ground rules. I did listen to most of the actual albums for all of these songs I will be talking about, so I will also be talking about a lot of the projects in general. Previously, I would normally just talk about the song if I just listened to that song and not the full album, but for most of these, I actually did listen to all of the projects, so I will be talking about the albums for some of these entries. I do typically count pre-release tracks as their own kind of mini comebacks. So last month I did talk about Moonlight Sunrise, and this month I will talk about Set Me Free. But if the pre-release and the comeback are bundled within 1 month of each other, like in the same month, I'll just talk about both and count it as one entry to save us all some time. And finally, again, this is my opinion. This is a biased list with biased entries because it is my music taste, and if you have a different music taste, that is perfectly okay, but please do not click on this video thinking that your favorite song may not receive some criticism. I will be criticizing even some of the best songs here because that is my job as a musical reviewer. When we talk about music like this online, it is really never serious enough to warrant any sort of hate comments, so please keep it respectful in the comments. This intro is already way longer than I want it to be. Let's just fucking go, come on.
Shall we dance? 걱정 따윈 하지 마. Make a second chance. 내겐 없어 마지막. No no. 세게 달려도 펼쳐진 your runway. 당장 물음표 정답은 내 전개.
Man, this song is so close to being really, really good. I think it's pretty good up until the chorus. The concept of talking about Nugudom is also a really cool self-aware concept that, you don't really see a ton of groups even talk about. It sucks that the song is ruined by the fact that it just does not know what it wants to sound like. We got orchestral violins and deep rock sounds and EDM and synth pop elements and hip hop 80s and a little bit of R&B, but none of it blends together well at all. The song is literally having an identity crisis, and no better example of this is midway through the chorus when the instrumental just randomly switches. Like, we go from this deep driving bass guitar into these orchestral violins, and I don't even hate how they really sound, it's just such a weird switch. Now, I think this can be done properly, but I just do not think it was well done here. The delayed drop on the final bridge leading into this EDM dance section also just feels really unnecessary to me and dragged the song out way longer than it needed to be. Also, the chorus is just oddly disjointed, with the first part of the chorus happening only once and the second part of the chorus happening twice. It makes the chorus feel oddly lopsided compared to the rest of the song itself. It's a shame because I really do like some of the vocal performances here, like the girls can sing, but I don't really vibe with the rappers here. They seem like they're trying too hard, if you know what I mean. And their flows are just not really all that great to me. Overall, it's a pretty rough song, one with a really cool premise and very interesting ideas. But unfortunately, the production just really hurts this. I'll stay posted on them though. This definitely got me at least a little interested in the group.
That's what I run.
I have never been and probably won't be that big of a Cherry Bullet fan. Their music has never really spoken to me, and their recent releases have not changed that. Play on the World doesn't really change that either. It does have some redeeming qualities, and there are a few good B-sides on this comeback. This is a song that kind of aged poorly through the month for me, especially with some of these other releases that have come out. I just lost a lot of interest in this song and this comeback. So the one thing I actually do really like about this song is that first half of the chorus. That pounding bass and the fading tone that kind of reappears and disappears with these pedaling synths. It almost sounds how like a nightclub looks with these like darting lights. It's aggressive and dark, and all of that just to let me down during the rest of the chorus. The rest of the chorus is just kind of typical arcadey EDM pop, and it just doesn't do anything for me. The individual verses as well are a bit forgettable, and that rap verse at the end just felt so shoehorned in. It doesn't even need to be there. There is definitely a disconnect between the styling in the MV and the actual sound of the song. I expected a little more color to go along with this very video game sounding chorus, but in reality, we just got basic black and white outfits that kind of matched more of that first half of the chorus look, and none of the music video really did anything for me, editing-wise, to help this. This isn't a horrible release by any means, and is one of my more favorite comebacks from them, but there's just not a ton of amazing things in this song, and if I were to pin like a forgettable comeback of the month, this might end up being it. So Pixie made this like super interesting concept album where the first two B-sides combine to be the entire title track. That is genuinely a really sick concept, and I really want to see other groups do this more. Pixie has had a turbulent time as a group. They've both lost and added members. They've gone on tours that were somewhat successful and are recently now going on a US tour, which spans a ton of locations. And I'm a little nervous of it because they are a Nugu group and they're not relatively large, and this comeback didn't do insane numbers so far. So I will be going to one of their concerts. I'm excited for it, but I am just a tad bit worried. This comeback kind of felt like it needed to be a hit for the group, especially since Villain was a good comeback for them when it comes to success-wise. They did lose a member after it, but when it comes to album sales and stuff, it was good for them. The biggest mistake is that Karma is the title track for this comeback. Probably like, Rob, that doesn't make any sense. It's supposed to be the title track. It's the culmination of the two B-sides. What do you mean? Flipping a coin does everything that Karma is trying to do, but like does it better. Now that doesn't really make this song bad by any means. A fun jazz beat drives whispery vocals that culminate in this very deep bass during the chorus. The rap verse is a bit underwhelming, especially for Lola's talent. I know she's a better rapper than this, and I feel like, again, they picked the worst rap here. I do think that the styling is very good this comeback, though. I think all the members look very good. They have them up in like suits, and they look great in suits. The final chorus has also grown on me a bit. I do like that. They carried that over from Villain, too. Villain had a similar final chorus. Karma itself is a very good album, in my opinion. I think conceptually one of the best of the year. But it does feel like the sum here is worse than the parts, especially since the two other B-sides are great. I like the attempt at what they were going for here, but they missed the mark slightly for me. I will say before getting into this entry specifically, if you want to hear more of my thoughts, I made an individual video about it. I would recommend going and checking that out. However, I will try to sum them all up here. When I saw a lot of the teasers for this comeback, I was expecting to get a lot more city pop than we actually did. I think there are simmers of it here and there within this lead track, but it's just not what I was expecting. Instead, they have seemed to dive back into this orchestral pop sound that we heard a little bit in their pre-release single. There are strings that really glide in the back of that chorus with this really kicking bass that drives the heart of this song. But besides that, it's a pretty basic pop track. There's also this concept of like setting yourself free, and we saw some of these in their teasers with like members removing makeup, which was really cool. So where the hell did that go in this music video? Like, this really doesn't happen in the MV outside of like maybe Sana's scenes, but instead they fall back on this crutch of like this movie set aesthetic that they were going for with this like fake out at the ending and stuff. Honestly, the music video itself is pretty forgettable for me. I don't really care for a ton here. Of course, the members vocally deliver as they always tend to do. Nayeon and Jihyo sound great on this. And I was specifically impressed by both Chewy and Mina's presence this comeback with a lot of the stages and in the music video. They really did bias wreck me this comeback. I'm really coming around to like Chewy a lot. This whole comeback to me does feel a little Western oriented with more of a mature concept that's easily digestible for a Western audience. And with that comes a little bit of musical repetition. I'm not saying Twice has a formula yet because they are really scraping the surface with their mature concept, but Moonlight Sunrise and Set Me Free do feel similar to me in a way. Now again, that could come off as just cohesion within the album, as a lot of this album does take a lot of Western influences. There's like some country influence and some like stadium rock influence in this album, but it just doesn't feel creative. Like, what you see is what you get with this whole album in this comeback, and it just feels like in about a year or so, I'm gonna forget this even happened. Also, the rapping section, Diane has a surprisingly mid-rap here. It's just not very good. I'll still defend this as a pretty decent Twice song, but honestly, since I made my video just a couple weeks ago, it has kind of shrunken down for me a little bit. I'm not a huge fan. And while I love to talk about music and I try to keep my opinions just on the music, I will say that the event that happened with Chaeyoung, which I discussed in a separate video, did kind of sour the taste of this comeback a little bit in my mouth, because now there's that kind of mark of controversy on this comeback wherever it's going to go. Again, that's not the music's fault, but again, that's just how humans work. We like to correlate things, and my brain is just never going to turn that off. With that being said, it's not terrible in any way. It's not even bad. I would say this is decent, but as an album and as a comeback, it's just slightly forgettable for me. I will say Wallflower, gas song. That's really good. So Zyker's finally officially debuted with Tricky House, and this song is so much fun. That's what it's supposed to be. They're under KQ Entertainment, which is the same company that has ATEEZ, so you already know these guys can dance, and they can dance. They also did debut with an EP, which I listened all the way through, and I'm not gonna lie to you, didn't really love the EP. I do like how it has a proper intro and an interlude. Those are pretty cool things, but for the most part, most of the B-sides outside of Tricky House, I just didn't really love. I get the concept they're trying to go for, but I feel like it's still very unrefined, which isn't a bad thing. This is their debut EP. Obviously, they're allowed to not be perfect, but Tricky House by far for me is the standout on this album, mainly because of that delicious chorus. Nothing about this song production-wise really stands out all that much, but it's just the raw energy and presence on camera already, which is just so fun to watch. And then there's this music video, which I do think outshines this song a little bit. This music video is really well done. Specifically that first transition where the train car widens to create a good location for them to dance in, and above them is this kind of like almost clock-like engine thing, and the CG looks really good. The transition looks really pretty. The colors are really pretty with these neon blues and reds and bright yellows, contrasted with the very gray and like dark navy train car. That like circus shot as well, where they're at that like fair, is really well lit. It's really hard to light those kind of shots well because there tends to be some overexposure. You know, whether it be the string of lights next to them or the carousel behind them, like it's really well shot. It's really hard because sometimes when you have a lot of conflicting light like that coming from different sources, there tends to be some overexposure. The camera spin on that chorus where they like break their backs and spin and the camera spins along with them is really cool too. They just torment the fuck out of this guy all music video too. It's really fun. It's very reflective of the theme. I found a lot of enjoyment out of it. The chorus is super fun. KQ does ATEEZ really well. I think their music production overall is very good, and I like a lot of ATEEZ comebacks, so I'm very certain that this will be able a group to watch out for in the future. Stop. I'm coming over. Call me Rover. I'm coming over. Rover is sexy and confident and everything I want in a Kai comeback. I haven't really listened to a ton of EXO's music, or their soloists for that matter. Like, don't get me wrong, I know their popular title tracks, and I do enjoy a good amount of them, but I just have never really been interested in listening to EXO's soloists. So truly, this is like my first real dive into Kai as an artist. Now, SM is back at it with remaking songs. They do it a lot. I'm not saying it's like a bad thing necessarily, but I mean, aespa technically has two, and now Kai gets one, and NCT Dream got one. Rover is a remake song, and the original is a very good song in its own right, and only came out last year. Don't get me wrong, I love remaking songs and remodeling to fit a new artist's image, but it almost feels like they do it maybe a little too much. That could sound a little bit nitpicky to people, and I completely understand, but it's just a personal thing, I guess. As for the song, though, yeah, it is pretty good. A bombastic bass and ping-pong melody. It's spicy and dark in all the right areas. The way Kai approaches his vocals on the song is really interesting. He goes for a more breathy approach to a lot of the individual verses, a lot more sensual sounding, and then a lot more aggressive during the chorus. The music video is colorful and also oddly creepy at the same time. Muted browns balanced with saturated blues and neon reds. This is a deliciously hypnotic color palette. The whole album to me was actually a pretty big surprise, taking heavy inspiration from trap and R&B sounds accustomed to like a Travis Scott, for example. Black Mirror is midnight highway music with these glaring lights speeding by in the middle of the city. Slide In is glistening cloud pop with these gorgeous synths that really just tickle the back of your ear. Bomba is more of that Latin pop influence you hear on Rover, but this time takes a little bit more of a club approach. Say You Love Me is just literally a Don Toliver song. The album culminates with this hollow pop ballad that just crescendos at the end at the right time. It's not the most well put together album when it comes to just cohesiveness, but the individual parts that are here are really, really good. Kai certainly impressed me this month. This is a good release from him, a good album. I would recommend checking it out. So, MX has really gotten the short end of the stick, haven't they? Backed by a company that can't quite seem to get their shit together when giving groups a consistent comeback concept. Love Me Like This is yet another departure from a concept a JYP girl group is known for, this being the mix pop that was present in OO and Dice. I think there's an interesting dilemma with how this song has been received so far. I feel like this song is very good, and I think a lot of other people think that this song is really good. However, I see a lot of people who are angry that they ditched the mix pop sound for this comeback. I, for one, am happy they did because their mix pop sound was really rough up until this point. Like, look, OO is a disaster production-wise. I don't care if you like the individual elements of that song. I like the individual elements of that song. But when you combine them, it sounds bad. And I think DICE was able to maybe incorporate both its concepts a little better, but the transitions of those concepts, again, production-wise, was very rough. So I think having a smooth-sounding title track for once is big for their momentum in the scene. What also helps is having a very impressive EP to pair alongside of it. I really do like some of these B-sides, specifically Password and Just Did It, but I do really like elements of all of them. JYP really dove hard into the potential Red Velvet sound here, giving us some funky bass lines and mixes of dream pop and R&B throughout. I think this project also helps them vocally shine, focusing on the members' talent instead of the mix pop concept. Especially on Love Me Like This, where Haewon and Lily have a great combined high note. Some people may not like the abandonment of their primary mix pop concept, and I understand their frustrations, but in the long run, I think it will prove way better for this group to have this foundation laid with an actual solid title track for once that they can build off of. I'm just happy to see people appreciate NMIX for once. Face is an EP that has graced greatness, but was unable to achieve it, primarily because of that very unfortunate runtime. We get 4 real tracks here on streaming sources, not including the hidden track on physical albums. The last track is an English version of Like Crazy, and we get a really interesting sounding interlude as well, but I think interludes are best on either mini or full-length albums instead of really short EPs. I think this gives Jimin very little opportunity to extend the concept of this album farther than the baseline thematic. However, that doesn't mean he fails at telling a story here. One similar to how J-Hope set himself free outside of the box he was confined in. The freedom of musical direction in storytelling is one that BTS members have taken full advantage of, which is in part why I love a lot of their solo music. On Face, we see Jimin skim the surface of this, depicting themes of regret, sadness, love, and freedom. Like Crazy is a classic late 80s, early 90s synth-pop throwback, shimmering with this drunken haze of purples and grays, dimly lit rooms, and faded backdrops. Sometimes we have dreams we don't want to wake up from, where we can escape the harshness of reality, and that's what this MV is attempting to portray. Someone unable to let go of this euphoric feeling. Alone is a visceral pop ballad, and Set Me Free Part 2 does a great job at potentially setting up another EP or album down the line. I hold BTS soloist music in high regard because they do make some of the best music in K-pop, especially recently. While Jimin isn't quite August D level or RM or J-Hope level quite yet, I do believe down the line he could become a great soloist, and I do think this is a pretty great start to that. Love You Twice is a song that I fell head over heels for this month. Think of it as the Cupid from last month for me. Yeonjun is my bias in LE SSERAFIM, but I never really expected to like her solo music as much as I really do. And while I think that I Doesn't Equal Doll is the better message between the two songs, I think this song is the better song. I think Yeonjun has a real talent for both writing and composing music, and I do shout out Source and Hybe for allowing her to release this solo music while actively promoting in LE SSERAFIM. This song to me is just so spring, with the lilac pinks and light purples. Her vocals glide along the guitar strings with these absolutely gorgeous falsettos and light vocal layering. Yeonjun has pipes, like she can sing, but it's actually this lighter, more airy approach to her voice that I like more than anything else in LE SSERAFIM from her. She has this very great ability to switch her voice from being very soft to lightly stern in the middle of the note. She has very good control. Honestly, the instrumental in this song is not anything I've never heard before. Like, I've heard songs that sound like this, but it's the vocals that Yeonjun gives this song that gives it all of its personality. If Yeonjun doesn't sing this, I think it loses a lot of its flavor, which just shows you how vital she is as a singer already in her burgeoning career. The MVs for her little solo releases are always really cute. She drew, I believe, all of the art for the last one, but this one she did not do it, but it was some pretty cute animation with nods of her being an idol. Props to Yeonjun for dropping what is, in my opinion, the de facto spring song for 2023 in K-pop. So, Billy came back, and I made a video about them recently, so whatever I say about this comeback is probably going to sound biased to some degree. And yeah, I'm biased as fuck. Billy's awesome. The Village of Perception Chapter 3, their third installment in this series, and truthfully, their fourth different concept they've gone for. It feels like every single one of their comebacks, they've gone for a different concept. They went from experimental pop to a more funky, upbeat, fun pop sound to garage rock, and now we're doing schoolgirl cute concept music. They pull off the concept really well, and this song sounds really great from a production standpoint. Billy are one of the few groups in K-pop that actually know how to do switches properly, and they do it a few times in this song. I really like Seyun's part going into the second chorus, and that delayed drop going into the dance break with that heavenly vocal run they do is fantastic. The one real drawback for this whole comeback from them is that this title track is arguably the worst song on the EP. Not necessarily because it's bad, but because every other song here is just that good. Enchanted Night is classic Billy synth pop with some city pop flavors added in, especially in that final chorus, and it sounds fantastic. Lionheart's got some Latin pop vibes in there, something we haven't really heard a ton from Billy yet, and I think they do a really good job with it. Various and Precious, I think, is supposed to be somewhat of a fan-dedicated song because the lyric video that they have for this has a lot of shots like involving them as like a group and like meetings with their fans and stuff, so I think this is supposed to be directed towards fans. Either way, it's fantastic. Extraordinary is fantastic. I really love how funky and vibey it feels. It's just very low-key. And then Nevertheless is probably the spotlight here. It is lo-fi synth pop with some absolutely heavenly vocals by Seyun and Haram on here. Like, oh my goodness, the final chorus, Haram absolutely eats it up. And then, of course, you got yourself the classic Billy EP art, which I love. This is a really kind of drawn back, low-key release from them. There isn't a ton of like mega exciting tracks here, stuff that like a Ginga Minga Yo or a Ring My Bell or even a Ring Ring for that matter. It lacks a lot of energy, but I feel like groups need releases like this that are a little bit more low-key, a little more relaxed while still sounding distinctly Billy. Like this whole album is very Billy. I think that could potentially lead some people to seeing this as kind of maybe more of a boring comeback, especially concept-wise. The schoolgirl concept has been kind of picked up by, you had New Jeans did it, Triple S has kind of done a little bit of it. I even saw some people saying that like this main track and Ditto like were really similar and that Billy was like copying Ditto, which was really weird. That's a really weird narrative, especially since the only two things they have similar is like a gym shot and the filter they use in the camera to make everything feel very dreamlike. The music video itself is a little bit more chill compared to the rest of Billy's music videos, but I'm fine with that because this whole album is a huge vibe. I honestly think this is their most well put together EP so far outside of The Collective Soul and Unconscious Chapter 1. But I think I might like this more because it's a little longer and I like every single song here. On the Soul Unconscious Chapter 1, I only liked 4 out of the 5 songs, so I think that overall this is a better product. Billy once again proving why they are the most underrated artists in K-pop right now, and I hope that this comeback warrants them hopefully a first win and some more attention because they deserve it. This is a really well put together EP and I love everything about it. I was hyping this up for like a month and it lived up to the hype.
Every time I work, every time I run, every time I move, as always for us. Every time I look, every time I love, every time I hope, as always for us.
I don't think I was ever prepared for my worlds to collide in this manner. I've been a massive hip-hop fan my entire life. I practically grew up on it. And J. Cole has been a huge part of my childhood and carried me on his shoulders throughout high school. I remember when KOD dropped, I believe I was a freshman when it came out, and I remember me and my friends listening to that like every single day. If I were to make a top 5 list of technically gifted rappers, J. Cole would for sure be up there. So I never really thought I would see the day where he would collaborate with arguably my favorite soloist in K-pop right now. The instrumental is so J. Cole, right? Like this sounds like a J. Cole song. It has this very mellow bass line and this waning guitar that almost sounds very beach housey, and it has this whistle that is just catchy enough to not be overbearing. The song feels like overcast New York City with cars whistling by and graffiti splashed on the side of a diner. The song is grounded and it's got its roots dug into the pavement as J. Cole delivers this very emotional verse. J-Hope really goes on to give J. Cole most of the spotlight here, and is relegated to mainly just singing the hook and the chorus of the song. He does open up with this little soulful verse that transitions into this incredible cinematic shot display. J-Hope glides down the street and freestyles in a train station. The color palette is very moody with these muted browns, grays, greens, and even a beige. I do think that this music video is a perfect pairing to how this song sounds. Like, they go hand in hand. J-Hope even plays homage to J. Cole's beginnings with the MV shoot location and the fashion. This isn't just a collab amongst artists, it feels like a love letter from one artist to another. The only backlash I've really seen about it is that it doesn't really try anything new or experimental and seems to be a bit bland throughout with how the song is structured, but I honestly don't mind that at all. I think it is perfectly good at what it attempts to do. On the Street isn't just my song of the month, but honestly my song of the year so far. Godspeed, J. Cole. Please do not retire.
It's always for us. Every time I look, every time I love, every time I hope, it's always for us. Every time I work, every time I run, every time I move, it's always for us. Every time I look, every time I love, every time I hope, it's always for us.
Surprise. Yeah, so if you're watching this, you reached the end of the video, or you skipped to the outro section. Not gonna blame you if you did that. This video is uber long, and I'm not trying to make this outro any longer than it needs to be. But I figured I would say hi face to face. This may be the first time you're seeing my face if you're a recent subscriber. I don't show it all that often anymore. I used to do reaction content all the time, so a lot of people who are subbed to me know what I look like, and my Instagrams and my Discord. So, I mean, if you're someone who actively watches my content, you would know that these videos are a little less edited than my other ones, mainly because they're like 30 minutes long, and I normally make these at the end of the month. I don't like spend the entire month making them. I just wanted to quickly put this together and talk about the music itself, and try to do it as quickly as possible. I could definitely dive deeper in a lot of these songs, but I mean, that it would be like an hour-long video. Who wants to sit here for an hour and listen to me? Anyways, I want to say thank you for the response on the recent videos. It's been crazy. YouTube has been a big crutch for me this semester in college because of how stressful it's been. This semester has been just really weird. I had to completely shift my time getting up in the morning. I used to get up around 9 to 10 o'clock in the morning, and now I'm getting up at 6:50 every morning, and it just completely fucked up my sleep schedule. And a lot of my classes I'm taking this semester are super time consuming and super stressful, and the best way to get out my stress and my anxiety is through YouTube. That's the reason I make so many videos and I edit them. Is it's actually kind of like a helpful resource to get out my anxiety and my stress, and it works. College is not very stressful for me, even though I'm put in very stressful situations. I won't take up any more of your time. Thank you for watching the recent videos. I promise future content will be better, and see you guys in the next one.